Close friends Jonathan Rousseau and John King are nature lovers, but a trip to find wild gorillas in Uganda gets them a lot more love than they are comfortable with.
Tracking mountain gorillas is an utterly unique wildlife experience. We track mountain gorillas in a park that is very evocatively called Bwindi National Park. And that name perfectly sums up the terrain. It's steep, mountainous terrain with dense undergrowth, and you track those gorillas to wherever the gorillas happen to be feeding.
They make you work for it. You wake up early, and it's quite a long hike. We were prepared to walk a long time, but I must say, we covered a lot of farmland and then into the bush.
John and Jonathan spend 2 days in the forest. Finally, the hard work pays off with their first glimpse of wild gorillas.
The wild parts of Uganda are so surprisingly beautiful that by the time you get to the gorillas, you almost forgot that that's the main reason that you came.
The buddies are thrilled just to find these jungle apes that they've worked so hard to see. Only to find the gorillas have been looking for them too.
We woke up this particular morning and I opened the door to my cabin and there was a gorilla on the path. So I ran around to the entire group saying, guys, you will not believe it. One of the most incredible things is happening.
I heard Jonathan's voice. I instantly came alert, and all I knew was I had to move fast. I just had time to grab my small video cam, dashed out. I sat down right in the middle of their path. I wasn't really thinking, because if the gorillas approached me, they were going to have to walk right over me in order to get to where they were going to go.
Gorillas are herbivores and usually no threat to people. But one way to get yourself attacked by an animal is to get too close to its babies. And this family is being protected by a 180-kilogram dominant male silverback. John knows the danger he's in. He freezes and tries to disappear into the background. But one youngster is curious about this human ape, despite the closeness of his minder.
The silverback turned around to see his son touching a strange object. And there was this moment in which the silverback, you could see him thinking, do I react aggressively? Do I allow this to happen? And silverback reached down and tried to pull his kid away from the human. And in typical 2-year-old fashion, this baby gorilla sort of shifted around and said, no, I'm interested. I want to have a look at what's happening here. And you could see the silverback thinking, And he decided, okay, well, I'll just keep control over the situation. And he sat down right behind John.
I mentally understood that he was behind me, but I was still, the sensation of touch was so overwhelming. And the smell, the wild smell of these young gorillas, it was fresh and pleasant.
Suddenly all the babies were there, trying to get a piece of the action, trying to touch the shirt. It was just absolutely overwhelming. And in more than 30 trips to the gorillas, I'd never seen anything like it.
When the young juvenile came up and actually grabbed my arm in an ever so gentle way, it was like a switch went on. I was sort of pulled into their world almost in an instant. The thought that went through my mind was, I don't want this magic moment to end. The whole thing seemed to sort of peak at the point when the subadult female came and sort of, like nothing more than pecked me on the cheek. I remember thinking, how can it get any better than this? And then, all of a sudden, it was over.
Let's watch your glasses.
As the gorillas head for the hills, John is left with a kiss on the cheek and a head full of questions only an expert can answer.
He was very submissive to the male gorilla, the silverback, by putting his head down. He didn't make eye contact with the gorilla. Mr. King was actually really lucky with the reaction that he had with those gorillas and the interaction. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it's also got to be cautioned as not to become the norm that people kind of expected.
I was so intent on just sort of savoring the moment that literally they all were, 20 meters away from me before I actually looked up to see what was happening. I couldn't imagine, a more impactful wildlife encounter.